Welcome to the Weekly Square with me, Mduduzi Brian Lunga. This is your show where we keep you up to date by bringing you some of the top headlines from the African continent. We keep up with what's happening in the great continent of Africa so that you don't have to. The date of the recording is Friday, the 26th of May, 2023. Yeah, I got it right this time. It's not 2024, but 2023. Right, let's dive in. Well, we'll kick off in Sudan. And the Sudanese army has called on ex-soldiers to re-enlist as the fighting continues. The army has called on reservists and retired soldiers to come back into the fold. This is in light of the deadly conflict with the rival paramilitary group escalating and getting bigger. The government has also asked the United Nations to change its envoy to the country. This is just one more sign that there is no real ceasefire at the moment and that this conflict could be in for the long haul. What is disappointing is that the African leaders that we mentioned last week are preparing to travel to Russia to begin peace negotiations there between Russia and Ukraine. So much for charity begins at home. We'll move over now to Kenya, where the starvation cult leader used gangs to kill followers who took too long to die. It has been said by the Interior Minister, Kithure Kindiki, that Paul Mackenzie, a taxi driver turned preacher, used armed gangs with blunt objects to kill some of the followers who took too long to die and those who changed their minds during what he called a fast to death to meet Jesus. The Cabinet Secretary for Interior said that the armed gangs built structures next to the burial sites where they had a menu of well-balanced diets while they watched over followers starving to death. Now, there has been an incredible rise of churches across the continent. Is it high time that these churches are regulated by governments? Please do get in touch and let us know what your thoughts are on this. Pro-democracy organizations in Eswatini have called on the Southern African Development Community region not to neglect their plight for democracy. The economic freedom fighters of Eswatini led a demonstration outside the Eswatini High Commission in Pretoria on Friday. They also handed in a memorandum of demands calling for democratic reforms to be expedited in the kingdom. Eswatini is an absolute monarchy, and the modern monarchy dates back to 1745 when King Ngwane III took the throne. Pro-democracy activists want an elected leader and several reforms that include judicial reforms and transparency in how the state affairs are conducted and accounted for. My question to you, as always, does Africa have a place for monarchs in this century that we live in at the moment? In fact, we could even make it a very global question. We just saw the coronation of King Charles III. We saw marriage in Spain this week of one of the dukes getting married. Is there a space for monarchs in this modern day that we live in? Again, we'll set out a poll, you'll give us your thoughts, and we'll go from there. Musicians have launched a drive for more funding for performers in Africa. Artists from Ghana, Ethiopia, Tanzania have helped launch a 5-year project to try to secure more funding for arts and culture, aiming to persuade African governments to allocate at least 1% of their budgets to the arts. The project, called Connect for Culture Africa, CFCA, has been started by the African Union in collaboration with Salam Ethiopia, a non-governmental organization that uses film, music, and circus performances to address issues such as women's rights. We will round off with Egypt. Egypt is now free of polio cases. Presidential Advisor for Health Affairs and Preventative Mohamed Awad Tag Eden has stressed that Egypt is free of polio cases. Speaking to Egyptian Channel 1, he said that the state will still work on providing all children, whether those coming from abroad or living in Egypt, with anti-polio vaccinations, although there are no infections in Egypt. Now, as always, we would like to get your thoughts on these and any other headlines that we may not have covered. Be sure to keep up the conversation going on social media. Use the hashtag #TheWeeklySquare or hashtag #ChatWithNat, or you can email chatwithnatshow@gmail.com or follow Chat with Nat Show on Instagram. This has been The Weekly Square, a Chat with Nat production, bringing you headlines from the African continent. I have been your host, Mduduzi Brian, and I will go sort out my stuffy nose and hay fever now. Look after yourselves, take care, have a lovely weekend and week ahead. Bye-bye for now.